My name is Sarah Mitchell, and for 6 years I built something my husband David never knew about. To him and his friends, I was the wife who didn't really work, because I dedicated myself to nonprofit organizations. What David never knew was that those organizations connected me with the most powerful and influential people in the country, and that my work had literally changed thousands of lives. I met David when we were both 28. He worked as a sales executive at an insurance company, earning around $70,000 a year. When we got married, I worked at a small educational foundation. David always mentioned that he was the one who really made money. During our marriage, I founded and directed 3 nonprofit organizations focused on education for children from underserved communities. I secured donations from business leaders, coordinated full scholarships, implemented educational programs. In 6 years, my work had granted over 300 complete university scholarships. But David saw it as a nice hobby. "It's sweet that you help people," he'd say condescendingly, "but someone has to pay the real bills." What he didn't know was that the entrepreneurs and leaders who donated to my programs had become close friends. POs, airline owners, hotel chains, tech companies. People who had seen the real impact of my work and treated me with genuine respect. One of those contacts was Captain Andrew Hayes, head pilot for a major airline. His niece had received one of my scholarships 3 years ago. Thanks to that, she was now studying medicine at the country's top university. Captain Andrew always said, "Sarah, you changed my entire family's future." During those 6 years, David developed a cruel habit. Every time we went out with his friends, he'd make comments about my lack of real income. His friends, particularly his best friend Tom and his cousin Mike, would join in the mockery. "Sarah plays Mother Teresa," Tom would say, "while David pays for everything." I'd smile and not respond. I mentally documented each humiliation. The explosion came when we planned a family trip to Hawaii. It was David's mother's 60th birthday, and she wanted to celebrate with the whole family at a beach resort. David booked flights for 10 people, his parents, his 2 brothers with their wives, Tom, Mike, him, and me. The day of the trip we arrived at the airport early. The whole group met at the boarding gate, excited about the trip. I carried my small suitcase and my printed ticket. Then David decided to make a spectacle. "Wait everyone," he shouted, capturing the attention not just of our group but about 50 people waiting at the gate. "I need to do something before we board." He looked at me with that expression I knew so well. That mix of cruelty and amusement he used when he wanted to humiliate me publicly. "Sarah," he said loudly, "I've been thinking. Why should I pay for your ticket? You have your work at the charities. Use that money." He took my ticket from my hand and threw it dramatically on the floor. "Pay it yourself," he yelled, making sure everyone heard. "I'm done funding your whims. I'm tired of being the only one who really works in this marriage." Tom and Mike burst into laughter. "Finally setting boundaries, brother," Mike shouted. David's family looked uncomfortable, but no one said anything. 50 strangers watched us in absolute silence. David continued, enjoying the attention. "If you want to go to Hawaii, pay for it with your own money." "Oh wait, you don't have real money. You just do volunteer work." He walked toward the boarding gate with Tom and Mike, laughing loudly. "See you in Hawaii, Sarah. Well, if you manage to buy a ticket." I stood there in the middle of the airport with 50 people looking at me with pity. I slowly picked up my ticket from the floor, dusted it off, and smiled. I took out my phone and dialed a number I had saved as Captain Andrew Personal. He answered on the second ring. "Sarah. How are you?" "Captain Andrew, are you piloting Flight 437 to Hawaii this morning?" "Yes, I'm just doing pre-flight checks." "Why? Could you come down to the boarding area for a moment? There's something I need you to see." "Of course. Give me 3 minutes." I hung up and waited calmly. People kept staring at me, probably wondering what I would do. 3 minutes later, the boarding tunnel door opened. Captain Andrew Hayes walked out in his impeccable uniform, his insignias gleaming, his presence commanding immediate respect. His eyes found me and his face lit up. He walked directly toward me, cutting through the crowd. "Sarah," he shouted my name, his arms open. He hugged me warmly like the caring uncle he had become to me. "What are you doing here? Are you on my flight?" "Yes, Captain. I'm going to Hawaii with my husband's family." He noticed something in my expression. "Did something happen?" Before I could answer, David came running back from the gate, his face confused. "Sarah, You know the pilot. Captain Andrew looked at me, then at David. Is this your husband? Yes, I answered simply. The captain turned to David, his expression changing from warm to cold. You must be David Mitchell. David nodded nervously, clearly baffled that an airline captain knew his name. Young man, the captain said with an authoritative voice that filled the entire space. Do you have any idea who your wife is? David laughed nervously. Well, she's Sarah. She works in charities. Sarah Mitchell, Captain Andrew said slowly, making sure the 50 people who witnessed the original humiliation heard every word, is the founder of 3 of the most important educational organizations in the country. In 6 years she has granted over 300 complete university scholarships. She has literally changed the life course of 300 families. David blinked confused. Well, yes, she helps with some scholarships. My niece is one of those scholarships, the captain continued, his voice now with an emotional edge. Before meeting Sarah, my niece was cleaning houses at 16 because her family couldn't afford her education. Sarah didn't just give her the full scholarship, she personally guided her, connected her with mentors, and now my niece is in her 3rd year of medical school. Tom and Mike had stopped laughing. David's entire family had come out from the gate, listening. Sarah did that for over 300 families, the captain continued. Business leaders from across the country donate to her programs because they know every dollar is invested perfectly. Last year, her 3 organizations managed a combined budget of $42 million in donations. David's eyes widened. $42 million? And Sarah doesn't take a salary, the captain added. Everything goes directly to scholarships. She does this work because she truly cares about changing lives, not for money. Although I must say, he added with a smile, the business leaders who support her work treat her like royalty. Free hotels, free flights, exclusive events. Because they recognize the value of what she does. He turned to me. Sarah, do you need anything? A first-class upgrade perhaps? I think after what I just witnessed, you deserve to fly with dignity. I gently shook my head. Thank you, Captain, but it's not necessary. He looked at David with disapproval. Young man, I heard what you said to your wife 5 minutes ago. You called her out in front of 50 people, humiliated her, threw her ticket on the ground, and told her you wouldn't fund her whims. David was completely pale. Let me clarify something, Captain Andrew continued. Sarah Mitchell is one of the most respected people in the business and philanthropic sector of this country. The CEOs of the largest companies have her personal number. The Secretary of Education calls her for advice. And you treat her like she's a burden. He turned to me. Sarah, do you still want to go on this flight? Because honestly, I think you deserve to be surrounded by people who value you. I took a deep breath. I looked at David, who now had tears in his eyes. I looked at his family, all with expressions of shock. I looked at Tom and Mike, who couldn't even make eye contact. Captain, I said calmly, I really appreciate your support. But I think this trip is already over for me. I took the ring off my finger and placed it in David's hand. This marriage is over too. David tried to speak. Sarah, I didn't know. If you had told me. I shouldn't have had to tell you, I responded firmly. You should have respected my work regardless of how much money it generated. The fact that you only want to value it now because an airline captain publicly validated it proves exactly why I can't stay married to you. I turned to Captain Andrew. Could you recommend a good hotel in the city? I think I'll stay home this weekend. The Grand Plaza, he responded immediately. The owner is one of your donors. He'll give you the presidential suite for free when he finds out you need it. I smiled. Perfect. I took my suitcase and started walking toward the airport exit. David's mother ran after me. Sir, wait. We didn't understand. David never told us. Because he didn't understand either, I responded without stopping. And that's precisely the problem. I left the airport with my head held high, leaving behind 6 years of being underestimated. 3 weeks later, David signed the divorce papers without a fight. He sent me a long apology letter that I read once and filed away without responding. 2 months later, the story of what happened at the airport circulated among my network of donors. I received calls of support from over 50 business leaders. 3 new companies joined as permanent donors. 6 months later, my 3 organizations had grown to 5. That year we granted 450 full scholarships. The managed budget grew to $70 million. 1 year later, the Secretary of Education invited me to direct a national scholarship program. I accepted. Today, 8 years after that day at the airport, I've helped change the lives of over 2,000 young people. I married someone who understands that true value isn't measured in money but in impact. And every time I fly, if Captain Andrew is piloting, he personally comes down to greet me at the gate. Because some people see your value even when others only see what they consider weakness. And those are the people worth keeping in your life.